I'm not going to be like, you need to tell everybody where you work.
The public wants answers, Daddy.
They want to know.
Never ask him to come back again on the show.
We're just having a chat that I'm going to share with the whole internet.
Hello, internet.
Welcome back to the chat room. Today I am talking with my friend Danny Benson, and we're going to be discussing his, wide variety of jobs that he's had, and a little bit of other stuff. So this is a little more of an improv interview, a little less like straightforward. So yeah, do you want to start out and just let us know kind of where you were, what you went to school for, where you went to school?
Growing up in northern New Jersey, like New York always just kind of the spot. Like once you're there, you made it, you're good. So I wanted to go to school. I couldn't go to NYU, did not have the grades. So I went to Pace University for communications. I lasted a couple of weeks because I found the bars that didn't card people underage. So I kind of just partied it up a little too much, blew through all my savings, wound up back home after only 2 weeks. I literally went to one class.
Wow.
In those 2 weeks. Yeah, I'm responsible. Ended up going to county college for a little bit to kind of figure things out. It's where I was working at the movie theater where we met Megan. It's fond memories. But to Montclair State University in northern New Jersey. Again, proximity to the city was big for me. The train line right in. I went for English just because writing was always something I was interested in, but the big thing too is they had a film minor. So essentially the way their program worked was you could take just a bunch of film studies classes and they all counted towards a degree. So that was what really interested me. So for a while I was maybe I'll become professor of professor studies.
Yeah.
And surprisingly there's not a lot of work out there for that. So yeah, I wrapped up there, but while I was in Montclair, I interned at Sesame Street. I had to take a couple of education classes because most people with an English background end up usually either going to writing or but teaching mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Is what they'll go into. And I always thought teacher, all my sisters are teachers. My mom's worked in a school district for forever. So it's always something I had in the back of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of planted a seed there. But then I also got an internship at Sesame Street, which I just kind of applied to on a whim. I never thought in a million years I would ever get an interview, let alone get the position.
Yeah.
And that was the best. That was the best day of my life. But I was literally offered that and an internship at Maury the same day, which I definitely think I made the right decision. But I still would have loved to. I just wanted to see the behind the scenes.
That's funny because my college roommate actually did intern for Maury, and she said it was interesting. Yeah.
Do you know what they did?
Yeah, so they did a few things. She would have to answer phone calls, and it would be people calling in saying that they wanted to get their child tested, or they would have to be seat fillers sometimes, if the audience got up for the restroom. Sometimes they'd be showrunners in that if they were bringing something out, they would run it out to people. So they did a variety of stuff.
That was they showed me the phone room and I was like, oh, that's probably where I want to be. I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
But just the idea of working in any sort of capacity in TV, I was it sold me enough. So yeah, I interned at Sesame Street for the 40th season. It was amazing. I loved it. And it was the first time I was actually working on professional production. Mm-hmm. And just seeing all the union people hanging around. There's a real camaraderie there, and everybody's just working towards this end goal. Loved it. I love the feeling of it.
Yeah.
But there's also some layoffs going on at the time, and I remember as an intern, a lot of people had to come schedule their appointments essentially to be laid off with me, with the to meet with the boss. And I just remember everyone knew what it was, and it was just heartbreaking to have to be a part of it, and just it just made me super sad. But so end of college comes, I have a couple of contacts. I get some day gigs, but I don't know what to do. I almost went into insurance. I literally got the job, and I called them a week before I was supposed to start, and I was I'm not gonna take it. Bye. Like I literally left like a voicemail, like, but like I knew they weren't gonna be there. I left a voice.
Yeah.
It was worthy on my part, but I was like deciding what to do, and I knew Montclair offered a master's degree
Yeah.
in teaching, and I had familiarity with the place. Actually, I really loved my time in Montclair. Highly recommend that school to anybody, especially if you live in New Jersey, in state. It's pretty inexpensive. But so I started that. So I was gonna teach, get my certification to teach in New Jersey with teaching English and students with disabilities, and then also like get a master's at the same time. So it was like kind of covering a lot of base
Yeah.
stuff I eventually wanted to do. But like about halfway through the program, I had like not like a panic attack, but like I like looking out, just like, did I like really give like this production thing? Like, did I give it like an honest shot? Like, should I really try to do this more? So like, yeah, I like started freaking out. I finishing out a semester, but decided, all right, I'm gonna like, I didn't, in my head at the time, I wasn't gonna take a break. It was just like, I'm done with this. I need to go try production.
Yeah.
Um, and so I did. I had some contacts still, so I ended up getting a gig with Picture This Television as a production assistant. I worked on a couple little projects for them. Like the biggest one was this show called Old Rotten Pets with Beth Stern. Yeah,
Okay.
yep, seeing your face. Yeah, nobody's ever seen it. Like rightfully so. It was very silly. Like it's more like it's like YouTube content. It shouldn't
Yeah.
not have been on. I think it ended up being on National Geographic. But it was just like about uh, pet parents that like spoil like their, it's like ducks, like people that want to have ducks. So like, oh, we make duck diapers. So like, we went to like this couple's house in Chicago who like they have a bunch of pet ducks and they don't like them pooping all over the house.
So they have duck
Make
diapers.
They have duck diapers. It's like, oh yeah, like that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah.
I went to a bar mitzvah, which I'm guessing you guess what that is.
Yes.
uh, bar mitzvah for a dog, and it was one of the nicer parties thing I've ever, like, besides, if I'm like not counting weddings, it was one of the nicer parties I've ever been to, and it was all for a dog. And it was pretty cool. And the odd thing too was, I went into New York to like, oh, I'm going to work in TV in New York, but like everything that we're shooting for like crazy pet people were all like in and around northern New Jersey, where like we grew up. So just going back there to like do I'll do all this stuff anyway.
Yeah.
Ridiculous. But so while I was there, I was working in reality TV, and reality TV is a whole different beast than something like Sesame Street, where everything's unionized. Reality TV, you're wearing a lot of different hats. You're doing a million different jobs, and it's backbreaking work. But like the thing that scared me was like everyone I worked with, they're like the 40s and 50s, whatever. Like, we're just like, oh, I don't know, like where my next job's gonna come from, which I understand is like the reality of
Yeah.
that profession. Right? It's feast or famine. But I knew for myself, I need stability. I need
Yeah.
like comfort. Not comfort, but I need like some sort of. I need to know where my next job is coming from. That I have healthcare. Like that's very important to me. It's one less thing to worry about. I try to
Yeah.
maintain like a cool, calm demeanor, but I'm a very, very anxious boy. And so like, and again, so much before I had another like panic attack or meltdown or some sort. I was like, what am I gonna do with my future? I don't know. Luckily, I was still able to go back into my teaching program. So essentially a year and a half off from that, but they let me right back in.
So you were able to pause and then just like go back in and all your credits were still there. You were good to like start where you left off.
Yeah,
Wow.
everything. Yeah, they just picked right back up. And I just had a good working relationship with like my advisor there, and
Yeah.
they were very, very understanding. So yeah, I just picked right back up.
Nice.
Then I went. So I had another 2 semesters of like classes, and then I entered into my student teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I taught in Paterson, New Jersey, and I loved it. Like, actually, really, really loved it. I had a great experience there. You know, ended up graduating. But once we graduated, then girlfriend, now wife, Brianna, and I moved down to Austin, Texas. And like the way the timing worked out, just I wasn't able to get like my transfer, like my New Jersey certification, like to get a Texas teaching certification.
That was my issue. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I just
Mhm.
don't like the red tape of it all. Which I mean, it's necessary red tape,
Yeah.
but it's just like the whole thing was annoying. So I was like, all right, I need to get some sort of work. So like I ended up just kind of doing like little odd jobs here and there. I eventually found uh, Vulcan Video. So one of the great things about Austin, Texas, is that it's a thriving movie town, and which is like we moved there because like, we pretty much moved there so we can go to Alamo Draft House. Like I was like, I'm not even joking. I'm gonna say maybe like 50% of like my reasoning was I just want to be able to see old movies
I
on a
know
big.
that they have Alamo Draft House in other locations though, right?
But
Maybe at the
that's
time they didn't, but like
yeah, they
they're
eventually expanded, but like the hub of it all is
yeah.
Austin, and then you know, they're their headquarters there, and then like the I think the better programming for
Mhm.
that is in Austin. But then through that, actually, well, we'll get to another story theater that I love in Austin, but I ended up getting connected with Vulcan Video and their video store. Yeah, since Austin is such a movie town, they have one but two video stores still, which is like insane.
Yeah.
Like in the 21st century to have that still. So I worked there from November 2014. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't been given dates for any of this stuff.
That's okay.
Hey, yeah, it's in the ether. You don't need to know how old I am, internet. Vaguely 20-ish,
You
45-ish, somewhere in
know,
there. Yeah.
the range.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, so I ended up working there, and I met. It's pretty much how I met like all my friends in Austin was through the video store, just through even just employees, but then just customers. Like we had just some of the coolest customers ever that would come in,
Yeah.
and like a lot of them knew that a lot of stuff you can get on streaming, but they weren't there for that stuff. Like you're there for like the hard to find stuff, the stuff that like is not on streaming. The people that
Mhm.
like really like seek out like VHS tapes and like weird cult cinema.
Well, and
Like
so I
that's
remember visiting you guys there and going to, you brought us to Vulcan Video, and it is cool because it is essentially like a blockbuster that managed to survive, except it's Vulcan Video. It's not associated with Blockbuster, but it's that same
yeah.
idea of like, they just have rows and rows of all these videos and movies. And like, it's crazy to see in this day and age because, like you said, there is streaming, there's all these options, but people were truly there for the art of the DVD and the VHS and the hard to find things.
Yeah, it was just like immediately like the first time we went there, like, it's like, oh, like this is the spot, like these are my people, like I
Mhm.
love this, I feel home here. I will say actually before I proceed, unfortunately Vulcan was taken down by COVID,
Uh,
so all right, and always miss you, but again the
uh,
community is still there.
yeah.
I still talk pretty regularly with a lot of customers and uh, other employees as well.
Mhm.
It was really nice. Like literally the day after they announced it, there's this one guy that used to come in every Wednesday night. Him and a couple other dudes would just sit at the counter with us. And they let other customers come by whenever
Yeah.
other customers had come through. But they would just bring us like a bottle of wine, and we'd all just like chill on a bottle of wine together and just like talk movies. And like they would go around and like recommend movies to other people.
Yeah.
But like they were older gentlemen; they didn't have a whole lot else to do.
It's
So
as
like
if they went to the
yeah,
bar, but instead they went to Vulcan Video.
yeah, that's it. There's one there
Yeah.
for the conversation.
Yeah.
It was great, and but actually it was crazy. I hadn't seen the one guy into him at the HEB, the local grocery store there, and I got to I had to break the news to him, but it was also just like catch up, and it was just like
Yeah.
it's very therapeutic. It was a
Yeah.
beautiful thing, uh, but I'll lead that into through Vulcan Video. I made other connections to other like
Mhm.
film communities in Austin. So I got linked up with people at the Austin Film Society, which is a nonprofit started by Richard Linklater, director of Dazed and Confused, School of Rock. Um, and they have a community outreach program, essentially, where we have what's called filmmaking mentors, which is what I was, since I had an education background, I had the production background. It was like
Yeah.
just kind of a perfect, I don't know, melding. I don't know, is that the word? Of
Perfect culmination of all your
yeah, there we go, friend.
skills
Yeah,
and
you're
abilities.
verbose one here. Words escape me too much.
Yeah. It
But
happens.
yeah, so I ended up becoming a filmmaking mentor. Just went to different schools around town, And essentially over the course of a semester, we would just, we teach these kids, the art of filmmaking and just break everything down, like pre-production, post-production.
Yeah.
And like they would make their own movies over the semester. And then at the end of the semester, they would get to go like take their families, and we'd have a big screening in a movie theater, and they can all watch
That's
movies on a big
so
screen.
cool.
It was the best. Like, it was the best job in the world. I
Yeah.
loved it. Didn't pay the best, so I had to supplement it with like other income. But luckily over time, I ended up also essentially getting a second job within Austin Film Society as a development coordinator. Since they are a nonprofit, fundraising is a big part of what they do.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting involved in that side of things as well, and just assisted the development team in any sort of fundraising efforts that they had. There's a specific one on the Texas Film Awards that they do every year. So a big part of my job was assisting with that. But over time, like I knew I needed like something else. I also needed something paid a little bit better, a
To
little
not
bit more,
have to worry.
Yes, exactly. Yes, yeah. To get back to, my initial worries of like leaving production, I needed like steady. I just needed like to not worry anymore.
Well, and before we move on from Austin Film Study, is that similar to, because like out here we have the Houston Film Commission, and they do a lot of community outreach things, but they also are in charge of like getting people to film in our location here in Houston. Like, is that something that you guys did, trying to bring people to film in Austin?
Yes, so that is part of it.
Yeah.
And then we have like Austin studios that they manage as well. But like, so we have different studios that people can shoot in, and we offer some incentives to come shoot in Austin. But then also they give out grants to like independent filmmakers. So like, they submit proposals, say, hey, I want to make this movie. And it's usually not limited to just Austin. It's usually Texas. So like if a movie in Texas, they're Texas based, or something telling a story, set in Texas, they can apply for this grant. And there's a few chosen every year to get their films made, or this grant to make their movie. It's like a wonderful program. I love them, and they actually also manage the public access station.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Town, which is cool. It's weird. It's also where what's his name, Alex Jones. Like you get a lot of Alex Jones got his start there at that. So that's where he like filmed all his like initial craziness, like there before somehow he got people to pay him to spew whatever garbage he fucking spews. Sorry, is cursing allowed on this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're not monetized. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, shit, fuck, yeah. And you have like a bunch of like weirdos hanging around a public access station who like brag about like being, I knew Alex Jones back in the day. Like, all right, cool, man. Don't brag about that. Like, who are you trying to impress? Like, but yeah, so like, I loved my time there, but I kept hearing, I had a couple people actually worked in production who kept saying that companies were looking at these contract positions at social media companies here in Austin. So I got involved with Accenture through that, and I did some work at the biggest social media in the world. Can't say which one. But like we said before, we talked about this off mic, friend.
We did.
The CEO's name rhymes with Zark Muckerberg, and I did some stuff there for a while.
They'll never solve that puzzle.
Yeah. I always think of sorry, this option is
The Office. Office when Jim has the.
That's amazing. That's an amazing costume. No, I always think of a friend Tim and his obsession with the Winklevi from Social Network. Remember the Winklevoss twins? Armie Hammer? I just loved how he like loved the Winklevi, because he put the Winklevi as like the plural in the movie. I love thinking about
there was multiple of them, so of course.
Yeah, they are the Winklevi.
Yes.
I just love thinking about our mutual friend Tim action of things. You gotta have Tim on this.
I reached out to him. Hey Tim, if you're watching this, text me back. I want to have you on
this, Tim. He's a papa now. I'm sure he's got
busy.
A little bit of time here and there. Yeah, but he'd be good for like someone who got into production and stuck with it.
Yeah,
like the opposite of me. But yeah, so I got into this tech company there, and I kind of like found that there's a lot of need for people with educational backgrounds in tech, like just training new hires or
Yeah.
training clients on how to use your product. So that actually led me to the company I'm currently with, which is an educational tech company. We build out, like, we're like a Squarespace for schools. Like, we just build out your website for you,
Yeah.
and I essentially just teach new clients how to use their product. And if they have any questions about it, yeah, I can answer them for them. But
Mhm.
it's great. It's literally everything I wanted, because it's got like all the like the through line of all the experience I have for the most part. Not a whole lot of like me. There's some video editing in there,
Yeah.
but like all the education stuff, the
Yep.
tech stuff. But then it also got that stability I was looking for.
Yeah.
So like I finally feel like, I found my place, my calling. Like, tech companies where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, I would say if you're gonna work in tech, like, I don't know, like how important ethics are to a lot of people, but like I felt dirty working for that Zark Muckerberg,
Mm.
just as a contract for that Zark Muckerberg company.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
The company I'm with for now, they are very ethically sound. I think
Mhm.
we provide a great service. I'm happy to be a part of them. They treat us well. I love it.
That's so awesome. And I love hearing like when people, like you said, they go into all these different things, but then you're actually able to pull the skills that you learned from those other positions to actually use in your current position. And it is a nice kind of melding of, all the different aspects that you love from those different industries all in one.
Yeah, it's like, it's cool. It is like, it feels like a moment like at the end of like a movie, like the end of like The Matrix, where like everything just like clicks, and he's like, oh yeah, like I am the one. And he's like going out like guns blazing, like, I don't know, doing his kung fu that he knows now, like when
Yeah.
everything just clicks for him at the end, like just it's something like that. It feels like, oh wait, I do know. I learned this, I learned this. Like, I thought I would be qualified for this thing, but I
Yeah.
am, and I'm pretty good at it. Like, yeah, I feel like I'm at that point. I'm at the end where Neo is. I'm wearing the trench coat now, and
You're the Neo of educational technology.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
It's a great feeling.
I can imagine
Yes.
so.
I don't think I could ever rock a, what is that, duster? What do you call those that he
Oh,
wears?
the duster. It's like a duster, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd ever want to wear one. I don't think those are cool. But
I don't think you should wear one in Texas. It's probably way too hot then for that.
but Walker Ranger wears them.
Does he?
I'm living in Texas. I imagine. I want to say maybe in the credits he did, like in the stupid like
Maybe
credits. I think he wears like a brown one.
maybe I can't say that I was ever super into Walker Texas Rangers, so I'll take your word on it.
It's like something I actually neither was as a kid, not at all.
Yeah.
Like as I've gotten older, I've gotten into like weird, like 80s and 90s like macho stuff, and like he just like there's something like so gross about Norris to me, but like fascinating as well. Like he's
You
like so
can't look
boring and
away.
plain and just like he's just like a piece of cardboard, but like his movie, like he made movies and TV shows, like
Yeah.
he's like a piece of cardboard that can like punch some people, and like that's it. But like enough people liked his
Yeah.
product enough to on movie and TV screens for years and years and years.
For quite a while, yeah.
Yeah.
He lasted. But that's actually a nice lead into your new podcast, right? You do a new podcast?
Yeah. Like the transition, bud.
Right? What is it about? I've actually seen you post about it. I'm not gonna lie, I have not had the chance to check it out yet because I have been binge watching Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is amazing.
Hey,
I love it. So good.
I love Alex Borstein. Like she'd be my way into that show. I mean, I love Tony
Mhm.
Shalhoub as well.
Yeah.
I don't know much about the lead, but I'm curious. Brianna, my wife has watched it.
So she's actually married in real life. She's married to Ralph. I forget his last name. But he's Quentin from The Magicians. And I just like, I don't know. I saw a picture of them on like the red carpet together and I was like, oh my God, that's adorable. Like, who knew?
Magicians.
Yeah. Did
What
you
is
watch
the
that show?
magician? No, I've never even heard of the Magicians.
It's on Sci-Fi. It recently ended. I think like it ended a few months ago. It was so good.
But like, what's the sci-fi element of it?
There's a lot, and it's interesting because it goes not only into just like magicians and like magic and how they have two different worlds, and because there's like this world called Fillory, and then there's also our world, and how they kind of impact each other, and how there's a whole story that ends up being true, which you find out in the first episode, so I'm not spoiling anything, but they find out that this like fantasy book that Quentin used to be obsessed with is actually real, and so it's kind of tying in all of their magical abilities and this world. But it also just comments a lot on like sexuality and like being outcast for all these different reasons, and just like it also gets a little weird with just you have to suspend belief because like obviously it's a show about magicians, so like it's very just kind of wild, anything can happen kind of thing. But I loved it. I highly recommend it.
Ooh, how many seasons did it go for?
5. It got canceled in
Oh,
the 5th,
whoa.
but it did end up, so they got canceled, but they did kind of like summarize everything, so you're not left on like a cliffhanger or anything. So if you want to start it, it does have an ending. Highly recommend it. Another one I recommend too, we're very off topic, but I don't care, because I love this show, is Dark. Obsessed. I love Dark on Netflix. It's so
10 million people have told me to watch that show. They say it's my bag. I would love it. So I haven't started it.
It's really good. I did a whole it gets insane. Like there's so many players and there's just so many different storylines, and like it is really hard to watch. It's one of those like you have to sit down and just like watch an episode, but you have to watch it. You can't be like on your phone, you can't be doing something else, or else you're going to completely be lost. But it's very, very good.
Nice.
If you like sci-fi. It's very dark sci-fi.
I need some more sci-fi in my life. I always find myself like, I don't know, there's something very satisfying about like a sci-fi world. Like I don't know, it's like I like any sort of world building. I feel like there's like a formula to world building now, like especially like in Marvel movies. Like I don't like, but like there's nothing better than well done sci-fi where like a world is like built, like rules are established.
Yeah.
I love it. I love good sci-fi.
Yeah.
I don't think we've been watching Perry Mason because we're old.
I don't even know what that is. Is that something that's like from the 80s?
It was a show. I want to be maybe in like the 60s. It's set in the 30s, but it was a show in the 60s or 70s. But they just brought it back. HBO Max is doing it now, or I think it was regular HBO, but you know HBO Max. But Matthew Rhys from The Americans.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he's Perry Mason.
Huh.
It's like a detective show.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of came out at a weird time for all that, so I feel like it's not getting the attention it maybe deserves because it's pretty solid. It's Matthew Rhys is in it. Tatiana Maslany from Black Mirror.
I like her.
It is recommended, and Brie and I just finished The Wire. That new, very relevant show, The Wire.
Very relevant, you know.
Yeah, well, it's just we wanted to like we tried like literally get it. I think we watched the first episode like 3 times, and we're just like, oh, like what is like why do people love it? Because it is. One of our mutual friends said like putting it out to me. It is like it's the most expansive universe like I've ever seen like in a TV show. Like you wouldn't think it like, but it is all of Baltimore. All of Baltimore. I bet it takes 5 seasons to like really build out that world, but like it really does, and it's hard to remember because they throw a lot at you, they don't slow down for you at all. There's a lot of information coming at you about like drugs and cops and school systems and newspapers and politics, and it's really it is I still think Sopranos. Well, Simpsons will always be my favorite TV show.
Yeah,
like there's nothing that will ever beat that for me. But Sopranos was like 1B. If like 1A is the Sopranos, 1B or 1 Simpsons, 1B is Sopranos. But I think like close number 2, if not 1C now, is The Wire. Hot take. The Wire is good.
That's like I feel like I've been watching a lot of shows that like are not from that long ago. You know, like maybe they were in the 2000s or like a few years ago, but I feel like a lot of the same issues and things are still being told, that we're still dealing with in society now. I was watching AMC's Humans, and that's not that old. But I was like, wow, we haven't really made that much progress. Like if anything, that particular show is kind of dealing with the uprising that we're seeing today with just like people on opposite sides and not being able to discuss, you know,
Things in any sort of
nicely.
rational or sane manner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially when, like, I don't know. But I mean, it's tough because you see both sides, but it's just like there's always that one person that just like takes it to the next level. And it's like, no, they were about to actually have like a discussion and like make a breakthrough. And then there's just one person. And it's both sides. Both sides are, you know, doing it, but like they just, yeah, they mess it up for everybody else. And it's just like so infuriating because they always get so close to like having a resolution, and then just somebody from the other side just like goes rogue and fucks it up. So
It's like real life, dude.
I did.
Wait,
Yep.
wait, where were we?
We were attempting to try and talk about your podcast, and then we got very far off topic.
That's good though. I like tangents, and podcasts are a great place for tangents.
Yeah.
Because I will say, so I do, yeah. Me and my buddy from the video store, I worked Mondays and Fridays with him for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
We started a podcast called Not So Macho Fans, where we are watching quote unquote tough guy movies from like the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
So like Lee Marvin movies, Charles Bronson, Telly Savalas, Clint Eastwood, some Paul Newman. I'm trying to think who we covered so far. Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson. Do you know Charles Bronson, friend? Are you?
I have heard the name. Face is not coming to mind, but I have definitely heard the name Charles Bronson.
He did the Death Wish movies. I think he's the coolest guy in the entire world. I love him. I actually just out or something very cool.
Yeah.
Also got married in Atlantic City, New Jersey, just like me and my wife Brenna. You were at our wedding last year. Yeah. I was like, the podcast just started originally. I was like, oh, I want to do an appreciation podcast of Charles Bronson, but then I was like, that's like too singular. So I wanted to look at like the idea of like what it was to be a tough guy in the 70s, and like how much that's changed now. And since me and Luke, my podcast co-host, are so very decidedly not macho and tough guys, so like we just wanted to see what these things look like now, and how acceptable a lot of this behavior would be in the the 21st. And spoiler alert, a lot of it is not acceptable. It is not okay.
I feel like that's accurate. That's what I would kind of anticipate. Just like even watching movies from like when we were teenagers, like I watched, what did I watch? I just rewatched like She's the Man, and I was just like, oh, some of this stuff is like not okay today. And it's not, it's not that long of a, when did that come out? 2008, maybe? It might have even come out later than that,
Yeah.
But,
so only in the last, 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah. I have not thought about that movie in forever. I'd be very interested in revisiting that one. Yeah, it's interesting, and like it's always, you gotta like look at this stuff through like a certain lens. Like I try not to like judge the movies, because of that. Like it's just it's made it in a different time.
Yep.
Different viewpoints at that time. And it's just interesting just to look at it from that perspective. But essentially the idea of toxic masculinity on the chopping block. We're chopping block, I should say. I did not say that well. That's what we're looking at. And then so we did we started like this project way back in like the beginning of quarantine, and we just kind of sat on it for a while. We're like what is this? Like, do we actually want to? So we have a gigantic backlog of episodes that we've recorded. So we're just kind of like slowly putting them out now. Then we eventually found out like we do better when we have guests instead of just like the two of us meandering around and just like rambling. Because like a spoiler alert also for the podcast, they're usually about an hour, but like I think maybe like 20 minutes of it is us talking about the movie. We kind of just like talk about it and just like use like the movies as like a jumping off point to be like, hey, like have you ever gotten into a fight before? And then just like telling stories from like our lives about that. So like the movie really is, if anything, more of a jump point for other conversations. But friend, I would love to have you on the show in the future if you'd be down.
I would totally be down. I am also not a macho man, so I feel like I fit right in.
Yeah, no macho man allowed on this show. Well, who do you like? Do you like any of those? Like, do you like Clint Eastwood, Paul Newman?
I will say I've never seen a James Bond movie. So.
Oh yeah. Ooh,
Maybe.
yeah. There's a couple specific ones I think would be great.
Yeah. I did
You've
just
never seen any
recently.
James Bond? Like,
I've never
I'm
seen a
like,
James Bond movie, and until recently, I had never seen any of the like Raiders of the Lost Ark. I just finally saw those movies, which I know is crazy because we worked at a movie theater, so like, how could I not see these classics? But yeah, so Houston's been doing a lot of like outdoor cinema kind of stuff. And so we went to one of the drive-in theaters and I watched the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, I think is the first one. And
yeah.
then we then the next week watched the other two. So now I'm caught up with the exception of the Crystal Skull. So
Which say people are way too hard on Crystal Skull. I think it is an absolute blast. So if you like those first three, check it out, friend. They're not bad.
I will. I didn't mind it. And it's the same thing. You have to watch it with the mentality of like, this was made in like late 70s, early 80s. Like, obviously the graphics are not going to be as good as what we have today. Obviously the standards of kind of how we live life now are not going to be the same that they were so it's like just watching it with that lens of like, okay, yeah. And not trying to compare it to what you see now, because then of course it's not going to usually live up to what we have now. So watching it with that lens, I did actually really enjoy the series.
I like that you brought up too, like the effects too, because I will still take any of those practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
If sometimes they're janky or just like you can kind of see the strings or whatever, I will take any of that any day over what we have today, where it's just like Marvel movie where there's like vomiting and diarrheaing like CGI like
Yeah.
elbows and butts like onto a movie screen, where it's just like it's overload like to the point where like I don't know like what I'm watching. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think I could like never watch another Marvel movie totally fine. Like I've literally watched every single one up until this point, and I feel like every single time I come out of one, I'm like, I don't need to see another one of these, but I just always end up getting
You
sucked
always
back
go see
in.
it.
Yeah, I'm a fool. Like,
Well, it's hard not to though, because it is such a part of like pop culture. So it's like, if you're somebody like yourself who's going to be involved in pop culture, you kind of need to see it to keep up with the conversation, even if
yes,
it's not something that totally appeals to you.
yes, that is a good point. Like, I will watch lots of stuff I don't want to watch just because I feel like I have to be part of the conversation. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, uh, so that it's always like it always like upsets my upsets my wife Brianna, my friends,
Yeah.
because I don't know, upset's not the right word, but like it's always like a thing in our relationship because I just hate TV shows. Man, like let's say we watch a season of something that's like 10 at 1 hour episodes.
Yeah.
I could have watched like 5 movies in that time. Movies are way better than TV.
Yes and no, though. I mean, I think there's a place for TV shows, though, because you get that opportunity to develop these characters and like make these arcs, really intense and in depth, and like see how they all relate to each other and how they grow, especially if they go for multiple seasons. Like, you get to see characters grow that like maybe somebody started out really shitty and they like redeem themselves, and you see them literally grow as a person and change. And I don't know. I enjoy it.
I like, and like there's like a place for that, and like I
Mm,
like a show that can like neatly like do that in like a succinct amount of time. But
mhm.
I love the idea of a limited series. Like we're like, hey, like we want like 10 episodes to tell this thing. So like
Mhm.
but this is gonna be it. I'm down with that. Or like the
Yeah.
anthologies. It's like
I
you know,
love, yeah.
I've never watched American Horror Story. I love the idea of that. I just like
Yeah.
a self, even though it's not like I guess I don't know the full of. But I guess
It's,
they bring in
yeah.
actors and do the universes all sort of bleed to each other at any certain point, or
I stopped watching in season 4. I think that was the carnival one. It just wasn't my jam. And so I do think that they are kind of standalone. You can watch a season and it's its own thing, like you said. But there is some little things that kind of connect them, but I don't necessarily think it ruins it if you were to
too
say
heavy.
only watch season 5,
Yeah,
and not have watched anything else. I think it's similar to Black Mirror, where same thing, like all these episodes, and every episode, even not even the season, but every episode is its own story. However, if you are a fan of the show, there are little Easter eggs in it that kind of tie into like, oh, this is in the same universe.
past seasons. So you're rewarded. You don't need to
Yeah.
see it, but you're rewarded if you've paid
Yeah.
attention the entire way.
Yeah.
I dig series like that, and I always say that like another reason Brandon gets mad at me because like I'll always say like I think I'm done with TV, but then like I'll always end up watching, uh, you know, I'll always end up watching whatever. Like I think
Yeah.
shit on TV. Like I like pretend to hate TV, but like there's like I keep watching it. Like like any HBO series, I'll always like a shot to.
You know what I finally started? Oh no, it's Showtime. It's not HBO.
Oh no.
I went back and watched
Oh, House of
House of
Lies.
Lies. House of
Yes.
Lies. I was like, it's definitely Showtime. House of Lies. Yeah.
I watched a little bit of that just from a boy Ben Schwartz. That was what brought me in there. And then but once it started though, I think that's what made me like love Don Cheadle. Like there's a
Yes.
lot of reasons to love Don Cheadle, but I think just the idea of like being a half hour or whatever it is of just unlimited Cheadle time is a great thing. He
Yeah.
needs to do more leading roles.
Yes. Yeah. I got into it because of Kristen Bell, but yeah, the whole cast was phenomenal. I loved it. It was great. It's definitely a little more raunchy than like I typically watch. You know, like I knew it was on Showtime or whatever, but like I was watching it, I was like, some of these like I'm like, okay, this is intense. Like it's definitely on Showtime. But no, I mean overall the story and everything was, I thought it was really good. So
Nice.
yeah.
Like my one big thing though, I will say. So pretend to hate TV, but obviously I still do like love watching it. So,
Yeah.
but my thing though is I do not like binge. I'm not a binge boy. Do not that like I do. I'm all about even if their Netflix releases everything at once. I'll give me an episode or two a week. Like let me like stretch that bad boy out.
It's
Like
funny because you and he who shall not be named both feel the same way. Both feel the same way about like, you know, watching it. And I understand it now after binge. I've been binge watching during this whole quarantine, you know, and it's like I understand the whole point of like maybe not binging because yeah, I find a hard time to like, I find it hard to recall A, everything that I've watched so far because I watched so much, and then B, to even kind of remember what the series was about and like, you know, bringing up talking points and talking about things. It's like it's hard to point out where they went right and where they went wrong and like how it caught my attention and how it kept it and all this stuff because everything's a blur, so you don't have time to process.
I'm a big fan of the previously on like a recap. We're going through the West Wing right now. Oh, and like so like let's say we watch like 3 or 4 episodes, right, and then like we take like a week off or something. We go back like, oh, I love those episode recaps. Like it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that happened. And then it's just that those are always very choice. The one show that I do binge and I look forward to it every year when the new season comes around. Because I think it's the most delightful show on earth. Is Grace and Frankie?
Oh, Grace and Frankie,
yeah, Grace and Frankie. It's nice to like something refreshing about seeing like older people with, like liberal values. I guess like I'm so used to like old cranky conservative people that it's just like it's nice to see like old like hippie like it's a very progressive show.
Yeah.
And it's just something so nice and refreshing about it. But it is also just it's very sweet and light and I love spending so much time. So that is the one show Bria and I will binge whenever the new season comes around. Love it.
I feel like that's Netflix specialty though. It's like they make shows that are kind of like meant to be bingeable, you know?
Oh yeah. They oh yeah, that and Tiger King we binged that.
Oh my god, yeah. Well, you had to because if not, everything would be spoiled for you, or you would not be part of the conversation. You know? Yeah.
That was literally. I think I watched that mostly just so people in my work Slack channel wouldn't mess anything up for me. So
I do want to say, you know, like with everything that's going on, have you found a change like in your current job where like you've had to change things around, or has it kind of been business as usual for you being kind of on a technological side where you guys probably can do a little more work from home and video conferencing and stuff?
Yeah, so it's actually everything even before all this happened, everything we did was all over Zoom anyway. So like because I have clients, from like New Jersey out to Hawaii. So everything is over Zoom. So it really not a whole lot changed except just working from home. Like, my company just set out a whole big thing. So like they wanted to start getting like guidelines down for like, this is how we conduct our business over Zoom. So a lot of it is like, say I'm not like, I'm not feeling being on camera. A lot of times I can keep my camera off, they still see, whenever I talk, my client still sees, handsome picture of me, I purposely, selected because I think it's my best angle or something. But now like we always have to be on video. But one of the things I thought was interesting is like, give you guidelines like, like Zoom it's not the same as in person to person interaction. So one of the things is like be more okay with interrupting people, which I did not think like about. I was like,
Yeah.
isn't that rude? But like, oh yeah, like, I guess in a normal conversation, like you want to be polite, and you're having a conversation, there's flow to it, a person talks, but then like sometimes you interject, sometimes you're like, it just that's a conversation goes. Like with Zoom, it is a lot of like one person talking, and it's essentially almost like waiting for them to stop talking
Yeah.
and come in. So
Mhm.
like I think part of it is like learning to be more okay with just interrupting somebody, like, 'cause that's a more natural conversation, which I never thought about.
Well, because you have like something that's topical to what they're talking about at that point. And it's like if you wait until they're done talking, they may have passed the point of what you actually had to say in relation to it.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah. So
yeah.
it is. I think we're all like learning.
Yeah.
We always, everyone talks about a new normal, but like it's we're establishing all these new rules, and it was one I never thought about. The other thing I didn't like though is so people have been very understanding about dogs,
Hmm.
at home, because yeah, everyone understands. Hey, we're all home right now,
Yeah.
but they're also making more of a say like, hey, don't have your dog like bark, which like it can be tough. 'Cause my wife and I we have a 2-bedroom apartment right now, so like she's in our office, I'm out in the kitchen, dog
Mhm.
is, and then if somebody walking by, dog might bark, and there's not much I can do about it.
Yeah. You can't really
Um,
control that.
yeah, and it's like, and, like I get that it's emotional, but I don't know. I just like I
It's
don't
hard.
could,
It's definitely a new normal of accepting kind of like pick your battles kind of thing, like we're all trying to be as professional as we can, but we're in a setting where we live life. So,
yeah. There's a lot of other things coming into play.
yeah.
Like I can't tell you how many like one-on-one conferences I've had with coworkers where like I like hear their kid coming into the room and like asking them a question, but then like you hear like how your coworker interacts with their
Your
child. It's
family.
interesting. You see a different side of them.
Yeah.
It's weird. So it is. It's like sometimes it's like a little like too much of a peek into people's personal lives, but it's also fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's I love like anything psychology and like getting to know your coworkers on a different level, and that aspect is like it's awesome because sometimes you kind of it makes you understand them more in like the working sense. Sometimes I feel like.
Yes. Yeah. That literally. Yeah. That is literally exactly what happened with one of my coworkers who was one of the type A
Hmm.
people I was earlier, and yeah, I think just getting to know more about them, and especially seeing them like she was actually one of the ones I heard interacting with her child. Like I had appreciation for her, and
Yeah.
just how much uh, she has to go through at home,
Yeah.
just to be able to the things she has to balance at home, just to be able to work like
Hmm.
fully. It's a lot. Before we were allowed one day a week working from home, and now it's just all the time. And then because of all this, company just kind of like looked at everything and was like, oh wait, we don't need an office. So we had 5 offices between we had one in Canada, one in Mexico, then 3 here in the U.S. And just said, "Oh yeah, we don't need those anymore." So they got rid of those. We still have like I think we're either like WeWork spaces or like
Yeah.
just small little spaces if we ever need to do any sort of like in-person meetings. But we are going 100% work from home.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, now it's I have mixed feelings on like there is something like I like a routine, like I like
Hmm.
my morning routine, and just having like a place to go like helps with that. Like
Hmm.
I like having like an early morning routine. Like I love like waking up at like 5 in the morning and like have like my me time. I walk my dog, like,
I'm
exercise or
sorry, can we
something.
pause? You love waking up at 5 a.m.?
Oh, I love it. Like I was in like this groove for like a year and a half where like I was up at like 4:45 or 5 a.m. and it was like I loved it. I just felt like so accomplished. And like thing is, people like who like hated early morning people like who like said like, oh, like you gotta do it, like you need your mornings. I was like, oh yeah, like I totally get it. Totally became one of those people, and I think
Yeah.
people like were annoyed with me when I was like, you gotta wake up. It's great, but I'm all about it. My wife hates it because she loves staying up late. So like,
Yeah.
like usually like 9:30, 10 o'clock, I'm like, oh, I'm going to bed. And then like, she's like, no, what are you doing? Like, we can do so many other things. Let's stay up and watch something. So I'm like the boring, I don't know. I'm the boring one in our relationship where
That's all
just
right.
I love going to bed early. I love waking up early. I will say because of all of this, it kind of like at first it just kind of threw me like a weird like pattern. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. So like kind of knocked me out of like my morning routine.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to find a new flow and new pattern. So
Yeah.
working on that now. But yeah, other than that, yeah, like not really a whole lot else has changed.
I mean, that's
Dude,
good to hear, you know.
like are you a person do you have like routines? Like do you have that, like those things in your life? Or do you like just like every day is different?
I need a routine in that if I don't have one, I'm not saying I like having one, but if I don't have one, I don't feel the need to get up and do anything. Like I very easily could just like lay in my bed and watch YouTube videos all day long. Have
Yeah.
no problem doing that.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
like I almost need it to be like accountable, you know, and to actually like have a reason to get up and like get dressed for the day and do stuff. So.
Yeah. I do like I try to like have some sort of like 30 minutes reading time. So like a
Mm,
certain amount of time like watching stuff. Like I have my podcast time in the morning. Like I have my news podcast I listen to. I'm getting ready. Like I have like my things. But like I can like say like, oh, 30 minutes time, 30 minutes like this time, 30 minutes workout time. If I don't have like a schedule for myself, like I won't do them because I'll just be like, oh yeah, I'll do that later on today. And it's
hmm.
nighttime. It's my 9:30 or 10, and I want to go to bed. So like I
Yeah.
need to have like set times for all that. I need organization. I
I
always thought I
also
was a free spirit, but I am not.
well, and that's yeah, that's the thing. It's like I find that I'm actually more productive when I have more things to do because I think I have limited time to procrastinate at that point because I am myself a huge procrastinator. I
Mm-hmm.
am by nature. And I think when I have a lot more happening and I'm like, oh, I need to get this done, and oh, that's the only time I can fit it in, I'm more likely to get it done because like in my brain, I'm like, oh, well, I have to because I have no other time. Where it's like, right now, you know, I have a lot of time on my plate. So it's like, I'll get to it when I get to it. And then I just procrastinate on it. So yeah, I
I will
think,
say I agree with you there. I do my best work when I'm like up against a deadline of some sort.
mm-hmm,
Like if I have to prepare like a training of some kind, I'll know it's there like the entire like back of my head. I'm like, I have to do this
mm-hmm,
thing. I have to do this thing. But I'll wait until like literally like the morning of, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll just wake up at like 3:30 or 4 and just work like
yeah,
3:30 until like I have to be to work at 8. Like I'll just work on that the entire time because like
yep,
as I know I have to do it. I'll pour myself some coffee, and I'm like,
yep.
that's like the time I can like focus in.
Yeah. And they've done studies on that. I mean, they have proven that it's not necessarily a bad thing that you have employees that, you know, work better with deadlines and employees that need to like plot things out and actually will do like a little bit of work here and then a little bit of work here. And then, you know, it's just how you process and, you know, your how you work through stuff. And so that was a unique thing. We did like a training thing at work where they kind of brought you through all the different mindsets of people and how like as a manager, you should be aware of like, well, maybe this person needs a hard deadline, but maybe this person gets overwhelmed by a hard deadline. And you should just let them know like, hey, on this date, I'd like to see this. And then like by this date, I'd like to see this. So I thought that that was like a really interesting way of looking at things and kind of knowing who you're working with and how to motivate them to actually like be productive and get things done without overwhelming or like inducing anxiety and stuff.
I'm always like in awe of good managers that just know all different work styles and like just looking at my team now, like because there's a lot of former teachers, like being that it's like an educational tech company, like there's
Yeah.
a lot of former teachers, and like I'm sure you're aware of this, friend. Like a lot of teachers are very type A personalities and
Mm-hmm.
like have like the way that they do things. Like in some ways I'm type A, but in a lot of ways I'm not, and it's weird, like just a way a good manager like my manager right now like can kind of like fit like work and deadlines to everybody's different
Mm-hmm.
styles and just like knowing how to draw the best out of people, like
Yeah.
that is a skill. I don't think I have that skill, but I am always in awe of it.
Well, and it's funny because it does kind of align with teaching in that, like, I know with my students in particular, you know, coming from special ed, it was like you had your own individualized education plan for each of your students. And let's say they had a task of everybody's doing their task, but they had to do it their own way, you know, like they had different ways that worked for them. And also there's different ways that I would approach like student A versus student B, because like if you use the same approach, it may get this one to finish, but may get this one to throw a fit. And it's like now in the, you know, 9-to-5 workforce, it's so prevalent that like we don't change from being those little kids that like now you're adults, and you still have to like approach them the way that's going to work best for them. And so it's definitely unique, and I'm grateful for having that teaching background, because it does kind of give you that mindset of like, you can't just say, okay, everybody, here's what it is, and like get it done. You know, it does help to be a little more mindful of like, well, they need this and they need this. And so
Yeah, that
yeah.
is a skill. That is very much a skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you, friend?
Yeah. But I don't think I'm very type A, which is probably why I didn't last that long in education. I kind of was like, I need to do something else. As much as I love my kids, I need to do something else.
That is like the one thing I miss. I just miss like the connections with the kids. Like like that's like the one thing, like now that they're clients and like I don't know, they expect like variety. Like kids is just like you can have like an honest conversation with and just like I love just like being able to like shoot the shit with a kid and just like you know, like I don't know, find out what's going on in their lives. And like and then kids can always like like bullshit meters. Like they know when you're not being like honest with them. It's like it's something always like refreshing with that, because you have to be on with them. You always have they know, and like they'll go out on it too. So like,
they'll call you out on it.
I miss engaging in that way.
Yeah. Well, and even they're just so like receptive, you know, like you were saying, in that I remember walking the hallway and like it had been a rough day. I came out of an IEP meeting and I was just feeling super defeated and like not good about everything. And like just this random little child, I worked in elementary school, so random little like first grader, I was walking through the first grade hall, never met this kid before, and he just walks up and hugs me. I mean, of course I like hugged him back and I was like, thank you. Like they know, you know, like they're so intuitive. It's insane. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
But do you miss time with kids, like with students?
I do. I really miss, like you said, working with the kids and just interacting with the kids. I miss that so much, but there's just so much other things that are going along in education, and specifically in special education, that I was so frustrated with, and I just, for my own personal mental health, I needed to leave. I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, dude, it's like all encompassing. Like, hey, you take it home. That was another big thing for me, like career wise. I wanted something to leave work. That's where I leave it. Like, I'm not bringing it home with me. Like, I'm not like, you know, it's impossible not to like think about stuff on your own. But like for the most part, I do not think about work when I'm not working. Like, I just nothing to do with it when I'm not there.
Yep. And that was my goal with my next job too, was I wanted to be able to clock out and be done, because in teaching, and I'm sure in other professions, you know, it's there with you, and you're constantly like working. You're just constantly working. You're on call. It comes with the territory, but I don't think school teaches you. You know, you can't be prepared for kind of what it truly is until you're in it.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. It's refreshing. I miss a lot. It is refreshing to have that now. Yeah. It's good.
And teachers are superheroes, and God bless them this year, because it has been crazy. I can't even imagine.
So, But even just like I see my sisters, like how they had to like react to all of this, but then like that, and then also like having, they each have, you know, young children at home too. Like, how do you have the time for any of that? Like, I feel like I'm overworked. And like I really barely work my 8-hour day, and then like, you know, I watch Grace and Frankie at night, like, you know, and I'm like, oh god, this is exhausting. Like, you imagine like having like to raise like 2 or 3 kids like on top of that. Like, I give them a lot of credit. Yeah,
for sure. Wild. So glad I'm not married with kids right now. This is a bad time to be married with kids, or even just kids in general. Just having kids in general, it's got to be tough, because we're living through it as adults, and we don't know how to cope with stuff. And now you're having to explain it to a child too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was a lot of information. Thank you so much, Danny, for joining.
That's like a nice way of saying, thanks for rambling for all this time.
Thanks for just word vomiting.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Megan. This is a blast.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I'm glad you were very go with the flow, because like I said, this is the first one that I did that was just completely improv. Didn't have like a list of questions, but I figured you'd be down to
Oh
try
yeah,
it.
I'm always down to clown.
If people want to find you on social media, especially your podcast, where can they find you?
Even if the topic of two soft boys talking about tough guys from the 60s and 70s doesn't interest you, listen to it just for the our theme song. I am like so proud of our theme song. Once you hear, a lot of people hear the name and are like, wait, I don't know if I don't get, why do you call it that? Just listen to the theme song, you'll understand why, but I'm super 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 proud of the theme song.
I wasn't aware that you had a theme song, so that's a fun revelation.
Oh yeah, we went all out for that. Very proud of it. But yeah, Not So Macho fans, you can find it, wherever you get podcasts, like Apple and Spotify and wherever, all those good spots. But follow our Instagram, Not So Macho fans. On the podcast, I'm like, oh yeah, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, but I don't think we've tweeted once. We're a visual guy, so we only pretty much do Instagram. So don't follow us on Twitter because you'll get nothing out of it. Follow us on Instagram. Or you can follow me, Ban Densington, which is, I'm not going to spell it. Try to find it on your find Not So Macho fans, and you'll see it's like host Spaniel Densington. That's me.
There you go. Nailed it.
Hey, thanks. I'm very self-promotion. Don't listen to my podcast. Just listen to the theme song.
Just come for the theme song. Then maybe stay for the content.
Yeah.
That should just be your tagline.
Yeah. Come for the theme song. Stay for the content if you want. We don't care.
Thank you again for joining me. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you go check out Danny and his podcast. And check me out on Twitter at UntitledMeg. And you can find us on Instagram at Untitled_women. Keep an eye out for our next video. We have more coming, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye, friend.